Good morning, Gateway Rotary. How are we feeling today? All right, welcome. Hey, guess what time of the year it is? It is candidate political forum time. This is an exciting time. Are we excited for this start of the forum? All right. Well, let's start off the meeting great today. We're going to ask Romero if he could lead us with the Pledge of Allegiance. Romero.
Good morning, fellow Rotarians. Please join me on the pledge to our flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Jim Mack, could you lead us in the four-way test?
Absolutely. Fellow Rotarians, join me in the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. 1. Is it true? Second.
Is it fair to all concerned?
3.
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
4.
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
And the final one, 5th.
Is it 5?
All right, first of all, I'd like to say hello to our folks that are on Facebook Live. Great to see you today. I neglected to say hello, so I am saying hello, and maybe I'll read about it later that you guys saw me do that. Thank you. All right, we've got some visiting Rotarians to introduce. Amy Schmidt from Crossroads Rotary. Amy. And also from Crossroads, we've got Jeff Schmidt. Let's hear it for Jeff.
Are they related?
They are related. It's a brand new club, and we'll talk about that. All right, and we also have our assistant governor from the Lacey Club, Bill McGregor. Bill. Okay, we have some guests to introduce. Madeline, you have a guest.
Yes, I do. Amy Chen, who is my guest today. And a fun fact about her is, as I said last week, she was born in China, but she also served in the United States Army. And she is going to become a Rotarian at Gateway.
Yay! Thank you. We also have a guest. That's kind of backwards. We've got Myra and Jeff Kingsbury listed. So what's going on here?
Well, they're my guests.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm happy to say.
So
Myra Downing is my guest, and Jeff Kingsbury right here. Yes, you never know, they might become Rotarians.
All right, excellent. Let's hear it. All right, and I have a guest here as well, Rachel Jameson from the Port of Olympia. Rachel is back there, my guest. And Megan, you have a guest?
I do. This is Christian Helen, who whenever counts, he's come and study visit.
Hey, Christian.
All right, Christian, thank you. And any other guests? Okay, we're going to move on to Think Rotary. Think Rotary is, again, a great opportunity for us to recognize other Rotarians in the club and those that are doing some great things, especially in the business sector. So do I have any? I see in the back. Yes, sir. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, I'd like to say good morning to my Boys and Girls Club. I'm an alumni of the Tacoma South End Club from many, many years ago.
All right. All right, let's hear it. That's great. We got one more? Yes, go ahead.
So y'all maybe have noticed that laptop and I don't play well together. So I took it to Jeff Seaman and he helped me get most of it sorted out. Now it's just going to be operator error. It's fine.
Hey, Jeff.
All right, Jeff Stephen, good job. Thank you for that. I'm going to ask Lowell Gordon can make his way up here. So one of the things that we weren't able to do at the end of last year, and we're really excited to be able to take on the challenge of taking that challenge, the opportunity to take it on right now, is the famous and illustrious Tom and Jerry Award. So last year's winner, Lowell Gordon, is going to be here to present that award, and I'm going to hand it to Lowell. Let's hear it for Lowell Gordon.
Well, it is great to be here again on a Wednesday morning, isn't it, Gateway Rotary? Yeah. Oh, yes. Well, so I have the honor and privilege to say, as Lynn said, that I was the recipient of the Tom and Jerry Award last year, and I couldn't quite remember what that really signified. So I asked none other than Tom and Jerry.
Yeah.
So I said, what is the criteria for winning the Tom and Jerry Award? And they both came up with almost identical responses.
That's good.
Number one, you gotta be incredibly good looking. Number two, you've gotta be extremely humble. Yeah. Number three, you have to be a little bit crazy. Yeah. And number four, is there 4 or 5?
You have to be forgetful.
Yeah, you have to be forgetful. But, you know, Gateway Rotary is all about having fun, right?
Yeah.
Yes. And do we not have fun here on a Wednesday morning?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a big party, isn't it? Well, so this year, I have the pleasure of announcing this year's recipients. Drum roll. Mr. Jim Mack!
Yeah, that was really candid.
Let's hear it for Jim Mack. Wow. What a job you did last year, Sergeant at Arms. Great to have that recognition, and I think more than anything else, the Tom and Jerry Award is for fun. Really is.
Yeah.
Great job. At this point, I would like to move on to our Rotary Foundation Minute. So without any further ado, and I see him taking his jacket off, let's hear it for Nate Peters. Nate!
Good morning. Today we're going to learn a little bit about Rotary International's global grants. Global grants support large international activities with sustainable, measurable outcomes in Rotary's areas of focus. By working together to respond to real-world community needs, clubs and districts strengthen their global partnerships. With funding from the Rotary Foundation Global Grant, Rotarians from 6 countries have worked to fulfill the basic needs of 50 street children in Addis Ababa over 2 years. The youth also received vocational training in woodworking, metalworking, and bricklaying, which they applied by helping to build 24 latrines for families in need. The host Rotary Club of Addis Ababa. Yes, well, I haven't been there, sir. I appreciate it, yes. We'll partner with the Belgian nonprofits, I don't want to say it, Caprio Kinderin and Siddhartha Development Ethiopia, which have teamed up on a similar program since 2002, providing food, shelter, and basic education for the children. So that is a little bit about some of the grants, and as we're looking at our projects that we're doing, these are something that we're looking at how we can partner with international projects with other clubs. And we also want to recognize another one of our members for achieving their Paul Harris. So the Paul Harris Fellowship Award is our way of recognizing donors who give $1,000 or more to the Rotary Foundation. And this year, as a professional fundraiser, I don't ever ask for money for something that I haven't gave to. And so when I am working on a board or a nonprofit or at the university, it's difficult when the leadership of that team isn't also giving to what I'm asking for. It shows that the leadership doesn't believe in what they're doing. So this morning I'd like to recognize Len Fauscher, our president, for his Paul Harris Plus One Award.
Really appreciate it. You know what? I put the agenda down. I got it all flustered on what I was doing. Hold on. I was actually not ready for that. So thank you so much, and thanks for recognizing me, Nate. I appreciate that. That was very nice for you to say on that. At this point, I've got a great honor to recognize some folks at a brand new startup club. They're going to come up here quickly and talk about Fallsville Crossroads and the new club that started. And so let's hear it for Amy and Jeff. Amy and Jeff.
Thank you for having us here today. I reached out out to Len and I said, don't tell Tom we're coming. He's probably seen enough and heard enough of us over the last several months, but we had our big charter party on Sunday, and Amanda came and Lori came, and they were super helpful in showing up early, saying, we know there's a lot of setup to do, so thank you guys for coming. It was fantastic. It was a great setting. And we are so happy. We started with 30 charter members.
Nice.
Yeah. And the great thing about it is that people kept asking us, why are you guys starting another club in a small town? And I said, Gig Harbor has 3 of them. We only have 1, so we added another one. And the beauty of it is, I said, we're going to add more Rotarians so that they can come during times that people who are working, they can still be a part of a community service, and they didn't have a way to do it. So we hold our meetings only twice a month. It's the 2nd and 4th Wednesdays of every month, 6:30 to 7:30, and what better place but we put it in a brewery.
Yeah.
But the beauty of it is we added 18 Rotarians to the Rotary International. So we are very, very pleased by that. Brought back 4 Rotarians who left the Paulsville Club as a result of work issues. So we're just happy that we have such an amazing, Rotary family. That's what I call everyone. And I know a lot of shoulders to tap, and we come here to take a lot of notes. So,
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hold on. Griffin Griff.
Thank you so much. Let's hear it for the Paulsville Crossroads Club. And I'll mention that a little bit later in my notes. I'll get some more information on that. Okay, we head now to our main program. And with great distinction, with great privilege, I get to introduce our moderator for today. Let's hear it for the great Doug Ma.
Good morning, everyone. How you all doing? So this is the first of 5 candidate forums that we are conducting, and today we have candidates for District 3 Port of Olympia or Port Commissioner.
Yay, Port!
Yay, Port!
All right. So by way of background, the Port of Olympia is a municipal corporation governed by 3 elected commissioners who set policies and objectives. Each commissioner represents a district within Thurston County and serves a 4-year term. The commissioners appoint the executive director, who is responsible for the ongoing management of the port's enterprises and facilities. As defined in state law, ports can levy taxes, promote economic development, create incidental parks and recreation facilities, and adopt and enforce regulations for moorage and toll facilities. Commissioners set objectives, policies, and overall port direction through comprehensive plans and budget. The position is considered a non-partisan office. So with us today are the 2 candidates for District Number 3, and you can come up as I introduce you. First is Joe Downing. Joe is the incumbent, and he was elected to the position in 2015. He moved to Olympia in 2005 and served on the Port Citizen Advisory Committee for 6 years prior to his election. He has a BA in economics and an MBA, and worked for 20 years in private industry and 10 years in government as a financial regulator. Also joining us this morning is Helen Wheatley. She is the challenger. She has lived with her family in Thurston County since 2001. Helen is a former Fulbright scholar with a PhD from Johns Hopkins University and has taught history at Seattle University. She worked for over 2 decades as an advocate for the cleanup of the Hanford nuclear site, and she is currently serving as vice chair of her Olympia Neighborhood Association. Although elected by district in primary election, all voters in Thurston County are eligible to vote for port commissioners in the general election. So please help me welcome Helen and Joe. So before we get on to the program, Helen and Joe, you'll note here at Gateway Rotary, we only have 1 microphone. And for these types of forums, we have 1 rule: do not touch the microphone. Okay? So, that's a pretty good rule. Well, bad things will happen if you touch the microphone. Just put it at that. So the other thing is I will serve as timekeeper here, and in order to give you an idea of how much time is remaining, I will slowly invade your personal space. And so, as I get closer to you, you know that your time is starting to come to an end. If I bump into you, it's time to stop. And if I have to physically move you out of the way, you are done. Okay, so what we will start with is a 2-minute introductory statement from the two candidates. And then we'll go to some questions here. One question that candidates know, and then the rest are blind, meaning that I collected questions from members of the club. And Joe, since you're a member here at this Rotary Club, I think it's only appropriate that our guests go first. So Helen, if you would like to make a 2-minute introduction about yourself, that would be great.
Hello everyone, and thank you for having me here this morning. I can tell it. I think, is it electric?
Yeah.
All right. Well, as was mentioned, I'm a teacher, so I gave you some homework. There's some paper in the back of the room there, and we're going to start now. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to read. Your port commissioner has these basic tasks: assuring that our executive director manages the port well, and then helping her to do that job. Commissioners help by keeping one eye on the priorities of the people of Thurston County, and the other eye is on the horizon to assure that the port will continue to serve well into the future. Now, I did bring along a handout from the port's 2019 budget to illustrate the port's greatest near-term challenge: the losses suffered chronically by the port's business units. The real figures for the first half of 2019 seem to track pretty well to this budget that you have. Big picture, operating units lose well over $3.5 million altogether and require taxes to make up the difference. I like to remind people that the port's not just about these familiar operating units, but it does have environmental remediation work that's very important. It supports economic development in other ways, such as grants, as you all well know. And it has powers for community revitalization that it's barely begun to explore. Washington ports are building new kinds of infrastructure, from broadband and high-speed internet to transitioning to clean energy. But in order to move toward the future, the port has to reckon with its past. Tax dollars must not be drained away to cover debts and operational losses. We should focus on where the port is doing well. Here's the good news. It's also a great opportunity for the people of our county to come together and talk about the kind of future we want. Let's welcome the change.
Joe, please, your 2-minute introduction.
Hello friends, thanks for having me. I'm Joe Downey, your port commissioner. Thanks Helen for being here this morning. It's great to have the chance to talk to you. As Doug mentioned in the introduction, he stole a little bit of my thunder, but the port is a municipal corporation, so my background is the same as it was 4 years ago, only enhanced. So my background 4 years ago was a master's in business, 20 years in the private sector, 10 years in the public sector, so all that, bringing that to a municipal corporation is an excellent background. So number one, you have to look at the background of the candidates and are they appropriate to be a port commissioner. And secondly, I'd just like to talk to you a little bit about some of the successes at the port, at this municipal corporation. We've invested in the South County Food Hub, which allows farmers to process their foods and allows us to buy local. We've invested in Lacey, both in incubator space for to allow small businesses to expand, and also in the maker space where people in between jobs can learn new job skills. We've invested in the fuel dock, which the biggest thing about the fuel dock is actually environmental, because people were filling their boats with jerry cans and spilling fuel into Bud Inlet. So that's a big success. Tumwater Properties, we've improved the infrastructure so that we can rent out, again, to businesses, 8 different buildings in what we call the Clean Water Center. And one of the big things is, again, environmental remediation, cleaning up 6 acres of land in downtown Olympia that, again, allows businesses and housing to move in. So we have a pretty big building moving in right on that remediated land. Lastly, a new executive director. Her name is Sam Gibney. I think she was here talking to us a month or so ago, and she's helping us move the port in a new direction. So a lot of good things. Look forward to talking with you more. Thank you.
So the next question comes from Janine E. Janine writes, the mission of the Port of Olympia is to create economic opportunities by connecting Thurston County to the world by air, land, and sea. So starting with Joe and then going to Helen, what makes you passionate about, let me start over. What makes you passionate toward creating this economic opportunity? Joe, 1 minute.
Connecting the port to the world through land, air, and sea. So that's a pretty broad mission. So what we do in this economic development, first we have the airport. We want to bring new activities to the airport and connect people by air. Secondly, we want to talk about the marine terminal and build that business. I mean, the marine terminal is not only an economic development engine by import-export activity, but also from the standpoint of emergency management. We have that in reserve should anything bad happen. We have a place right downtown to help us with our emergency needs. And air, land, and sea. In the land area, you know, we're looking at different transportation modes to help the community as all these people are moving in and things are getting more congested. You know, I'm starting to experience a few traffic jams right moving from one side of Olympia to another. So the port's mission is broad, but it's an important mission. Thank you.
What makes you passionate for creating this economic opportunity? 1 minute.
Yeah, well, I'm going to say that as a historian, I agree that the original mission of the port was to connect Olympia by sea. But I really don't think that that is the way to define it. I do think that promoting economic development into the future is about having the port serve the people of Thurston County, promoting sustainable and sustainability and resilience. I think that's really important. And in terms of jobs, I think that means really thinking about where the growth areas are in Thurston County and making sure that the port is helping in those areas. So that's why I emphasize community revitalization and economic development in my original speech, because I think as we move forward with the port, part of the exciting aspect of that is that it's going to reinvent itself in certain ways, as it has many times in the past. Thank you.
So my bad, I forgot to start off with question number 1, which you guys had at the beginning. And so question number 1 is, what are the 3 most pressing issues facing the Port of Olympia, and how will you address them? You have 1 minute to respond. Helen, why don't you go first? 1 minute.
All right, well, as I said again in the opening statement, I think the really pressing issue for the port, number 1, and everything flows from it, is finding ways to control the flow of money into the operating units and helping to turn the operating units around so that they are self-sustaining or even bringing money to the other side of the port, which I'm especially excited about. Is the environmental sustainability issue is really, really important to me. And again, having the port become a real county-wide leader in talking about where the jobs are for the future for our young people. Thank you.
Joe, top 3.
My top 3 issues for the port, and you know what, just the other night a constituent asked me a really good question, which was, where do you see the port in 10 years? So while we have a vision 2050, which is looking 30 years out, when he asked me that question, where do you see the port in 10 years? That means what can I affect over these next 4 years? What can I and this commission affect? And I think we can affect the marine terminal business, the airport, and a greater emphasis on environmental protection. So let me start with the marine terminal. I'd like to see that marine terminal fully utilized. We've got great assets there. We've got a great warehouse. We got land. I'd like to step up the activity, ship after ship. Interstate and international commerce is very important. At the airport, passenger service or a distribution hub of some sort, it's an unutilized resource. We've got right next to I-5. And third thing, we need to step up. We have a climate crisis, and so we need a whole division focused on environmental.
Okay, so that's a good segue there, Joe. So Stephen T. writes, the port is nearing completion of the long-term strategic planning process that has involved significant public input. The question is, what is your experience guiding organizations through the process of implementing a clear strategic vision? Joe, we'll start with Joe and then go 1 minute.
So my experience with strategic vision is that the port just completed one. So we have 5 main emphasis areas for strategic vision going forward, which then becomes through the lens of this Vision 2050. So the Vision 2050 was an outreach. We have over 10,000 individual comments from citizens, from you, about what they'd like to see with the port. So I carry that with me every day. Look at that, look at strategic development, and look at through the lens of what the people want. And so I think that that's supremely important. Not everything I agree with, but that's what the people want. I mean, so I'm paying a lot of close attention to that, because, you know, I think the port should be for the people and tied in with this community. You know, behind the scenes, we do things to make sure that this port is relevant to this community. So thank you.
Great. Thank you. Very clear guidance.
I think I got a general idea, or at least the way I'm going to try to answer it. There we go. Okay, so I have about 20 years of experience with with something called the Hanford Advisory Board. It's a Department of Energy Federal Facility Advisory Board that it consists of probably about 35 stakeholders, everyone from the state of Oregon to the Yakima tribe to the city of Richland, contractors at Hanford, employees at Hanford, environmental groups, which I'm a part of, and so on. And I have been the chair of the Public Involvement Committee of that organization. And so I've developed a fair bit of expertise in both public involvement and especially in a consensus process involving a lot of different stakeholders dealing with very complex issues and very concrete issues. At Hanford, okay.
Should we keep a tight ship here? No pun intended. So this next question comes from Mike E. Mike writes, I am scheduled to be on a flight to Pasco, Washington on Wednesday and will not be attending the meeting. Question for the candidates. Will they promote commuter air service originating from the Port of Olympia airfield, i.e. Horizon turboprop type jet aircraft? Perhaps in the future I would be able to attend our weekly meetings and still catch a flight to a regional airport. We'll start with Helen. 1 minute.
All right, so who was the person that raised their, or that asked that question?
Mike's not here.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, I drive over to Pasco all the time, and I actually love that drive over Highway 12, so I don't know what they're complaining about. That's one of the reasons I stay on the Hanford Advisory Board. I love that drive. But more seriously, I do definitely support the idea of at least exploring a commuter air service. And I love airports. My dad was a pilot. You know, that's kind of something that's near and dear to my heart.
Joe, do you support commuter air service from the Port of Olympia?
Thank you, Mike E, for that question. As I mentioned earlier, you know, I am in favor of new things happening at the airport. So we have a changing world. So we have mostly unfortunate things with the climate crisis, but one thing we have is less fog in this area. So my understanding is 20 years ago, we had a lot more fog, which inhibited regular passenger service. And so, you know, and plus we have a lot more people now. So I really do believe, and I promise, that we will investigate commuter air service at the port, at our airport, Olympia Regional Airport. And the other thing I'd like to stress is, again, that distribution hub. How can we use this airport that's so ideally suited right next to I-5 with practically its own exit? So yes, I do. Thank you.
So Michelle W. writes, what do you see as the #1 biggest economic opportunity for the port that has not been addressed as of yet? And what steps would you take to incorporate such an opportunity moving forward? We'll start with Joe. 1 minute.
Okay, I'm going to sound like a broken record because, that question, where do you see the port 10 years from now? So I see the port as a leader in like green energy, so solar energy, electric vehicles, shore power hookups for ships, you name it, there's many, and sea level rise, and all those things are gonna create jobs and bring a focus on the port as a leader in this area for the future. And again, the marine terminal and the airport, so those are my economic development ideas for the near-term future.
Thank you. Helen, biggest economic opportunities?
Okay, well, of course, I love the idea of the shift to renewable energy for all the reasons that Joe mentioned. But I want to bring up another one, which is the sort of thing that I wish the port could afford, and that is I'm really excited about broadband high-speed internet, and I'll tell you the reason why is because I think the port can provide an infrastructure for the businesses that are really growing in this community, and that includes education. It includes this becoming a regional medical center, and and also just things like the fact that we're building a new archives, and it's going to continue to be an important government center. If we had better internet service, which ports can now provide infrastructure for, I think that would really help to set the stage for this community to really grow into good jobs. So, thanks.
So we'll start with Helen on this question. Lori C. writes, would you like to close the marine terminal or change its current use? If so, what is the new use and why? If not, how would you maximize its current use? Helen, 1 minute.
Okay, well, this is really a big issue for this election, that's for sure, and I have staked out a position that I am critical of the marine terminal. I think it loses way too much money. It really does. I think it's struggled for a long time to find the customer base that it needs, and so I do think we need to start looking for other ways for that marine terminal to be used and to either make money or stop losing money. And I also am very concerned about sea level rise over the long term. We have 20 years that we know about. After that, we don't know what's going to happen to our waterfront. It's really time for us to start talking about that. When they're talking about sea level rise potentially being up to 5 feet, that's going to have a huge impact. And another thing that we really have to think about, and I really am grateful for being here for today, is we have to think about dredging too, and how much that's going to cost. I'd like to get that on folks' radar screen, so I thank you very much for that question. Thank you, Doug.
Clear up a little bit of a misconception, which is every division within the Port of Olympia, operating income is positive. And so that's the one misconception that people talk about. Yes, the port has debt. Like any large corporation, debt is a modern tool for a modern business. And so yes, we do have debt, and we're managing that. Have you ever seen a headline saying, port goes to the voters for more tax money for the debt? No. And so we're managing that, and it's a municipal corporation. So environmental remediation, for example, $1.1 million we spent on those 6 acres downtown, that costs money. And thank you, taxpayers, for providing that. So yes, I'm bullish on the marine terminal. There are many different types of cargoes besides logs that we want to explore and fully utilize that marine terminal. And finally, on sea level rise, there's a group of people that want to withdraw from downtown Olympia. I do not. I'm part of the meetings. We have meetings along with Lot and City of Olympia to figure out what we're going to do about sea level rise.
Give a politician a microphone. Okay, so before we do our 1-minute closing comments from each candidate will have an opportunity to ask a question of their opponent, any question that you come up with. The opponent will have 1 minute to respond, and then the opponent will have an opportunity to ask a question of the opposing candidate with 1 minute to respond. So we'll start with Helen. Your question for Joe, please.
Well, since this is the theme of the day for me, I'm just going to ask a pretty simple question. What are 2 or 3 major, real concrete changes that the Port Commission should promote or make to improve the port's bottom line? That's what I'd like to know. What will you do concretely to improve the bottom line of the port?
Joe, 1 minute.
The bottom line gets better every year just by virtue of the fact that we're paying off our debt. But as far as individual divisions go, I mentioned the marine terminal. I mentioned literally doubling the business at the marine terminal, and that's a very concrete thing. The airport's doing well, the marina's doing well. We could lease out more properties, and so we need to be more aggressive in the property leasing area, because as you've seen, we do have some land on, for example, the Port Peninsula. So we've got active plans. We're talking about even a 50-unit tourist attraction, which would be like a mobile home park where people come and they pay $50 or $75 a night to stay there and visit downtown Olympia, multiplier effect. Again, the Port of Olympia as an economic institution, tourism, when we promote tourism, it's good for everybody, and that's one way to do that.
Great. So now you're gonna ask her a question, Joe. Your question for Helen.
Again, Helen, thank you for being here this morning. My question to you is this. We've heard some of the things you don't like about the port. Can you tell us what you think it's doing well?
Thanks. Yeah, one area where I think the port is doing pretty well is with the Swantown Marina and Boat Works. It pretty much pays its way. You know, it sometimes makes a little money, sometimes loses a little money. It provides really excellent services to the community. The only drag on it that I see economically is so far is the fuel dock that's kind of pulled it down a bit. But I think that aspect of the port is something that people really love. It reflects the desire for people to be able to come down and have contact with the water, which is a big message from that Port Vision 2050. So I'd say and another thing I really like about the marina is that it has a good way of returning the money to the community. And I think that is the ideal for the operating units, is to, you know, the amount that we invest in the port comes back to the community. Okay, thank you.
We're getting really good. We're getting close.
So we're gonna have a 1-minute close for both candidates. So,
She asked me a question.
Oh, did you? I'm all just messing up here, just looking at them. Okay, ask her a question. Ask him.
You already did.
No, Joe, you did. Right?
You're okay.
Come on, I'm right.
You're right.
You're wrong.
Joe answered.
Okay, so 1-minute close from both candidates. A round of applause for them, because this is really hard. So we'll start with Helen's 1-minute close, and then we'll end with Joe. Helen.
Thank you very much. Okay, our Port of Olympia will always support our airport and our changing waterfront. Its mission will always be to promote the quality of life in our county, from sustainable family wage jobs for both men and women, to recreational access for people of all income levels, to protecting our farms and natural resources. I believe that the future of our port will see more and more collaboration with other governments, with our schools, with new partners in areas such as renewable energy, and especially in the county's best job growth areas such as medicine and government support services. So it's time to get going. Let's bring positive change to our port and to our county. Thank you.
I'm gonna, you can tell I was a little wound up because I'm, and so I'm gonna slow it down a little bit. It's very important to me to have a port commissioner that loves the port. I love the functions of the port. I love the economic development aspect of the port. Myra and I, my wife and I, pay about $4,000 a year in property taxes. About $60 goes to the port, so it is the second lowest thing. I'm not sure of your jurisdiction, but it's pretty low on the tax bill. And what that says is that you're getting a lot of bang for your buck with the port. A lot of different functions, a lot of great economic development, a lot of impact. Everybody secretly loves the port. So when I read from folks that, the port does this, the port does that, wow, they really love us. Anyway, thank you. Appreciate your support. I'm the right man for the job. Joe Downing, vote Joe Downing, remember November. Thank you.
All right, first let's hear it for our candidates. And one more applause for Doug Ma. What a great job moderating. Thank you so much. And on the record, I don't secretly love the port. I love the port. Okay, we've got some announcements to make. We've got a couple staff announcements. We got Lori and Grace on the agenda. So Lori Carroll, let's hear it for Lori.
The hat's courtesy of Mary Weiss.
Yeah, Mary.
Anyway, so September is Literacy Month, and you know, we had a speaker last week on literacy from the school, and we are also doing a book drive in October because we're dragging Literacy Month into October. So we're collecting books, gently used or new books for South Sound Reading Foundation, birth through age 18. They're in special need of like those baby hard books. They like those, or maybe multi-language books, Spanish, or chapter books. And so start collecting them and then bringing them here in October. And also this year they've made South Sound Reading Foundation has made a wish list of books that they'd really like. And so it's posted on our website. And you can go to Amazon or go to Smile Amazon, and then if you're not already register for the Gateway Foundation, and we get 0.5% back to our club. So, or anything, not just the books. So consider that. Any questions?
Love the hat.
Yes.
Will you come to our Rotary next Wednesday at 3:30?
I will be there. Yes, I will be there.
Lacey Rotary tends to do
Yes,
pretty well.
this is a contest. Lacey Rotary has just smoked us for the past 2 years, so we really need to step it up this year. Okay, thanks.
We're gonna destroy Lacey this year. Okay, Grace Kendall. Grace.
Good morning, everyone. I want to just bring to your attention that you should have gotten an email this week in reference to a survey that the vocational committee is doing to get your feedback on what you're willing to support or not. When you get that, would you please fill that out and get it back to us so that we can get some data, so the vocational committee can go forward in doing all the great things that we want to do for you. So help us to help you. And a big thank you to Doug for doing the survey for us. We really do appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. Got a couple of announcements to go over. First of all, on the BBB, we're going to hear some more information about that in about 2 weeks. But great success, approximately 3,000 guests. So let's hear it for that. About 110,000 in gross sales, and we're finalizing net dollars, so we're looking at somewhere around 48,000 to 50,000 back to our community. With that said, as a reminder, still looking for some folks to pay their BBB tickets, $200. One of the things you might remember is you were being rotarized. It's kind of an ask from every club member to make sure that those tickets are passed on. So if you could make sure you see Amanda Vey, our vice president, the $200, most appreciated. If there's any issues, concerns, feel free to come see me and talk to me about that. With that said, a couple other announcements. We've got a board meeting it was last week on the 11th. And for a couple of different things, member engagement, every committee chair is provided an assistant chair, and we're in the process of entering every person into a committee. So there'll be some more information coming about that. If you are interested in joining a committee, please make sure you see our committee chairs all listed on Club Runner. We voted to give $250 to our new startup club, Crossroads, Local Crossroads, and And Amanda Vey, Tom Carroll, Lori Carroll attended the welcoming, and I think it was a great event. So again, thank you to the club for doing that and providing that, and that's something that's usually a traditional giving to for a startup club, so happy to help out with that. The third annual meeting will be held on December 4th. I am putting together a nominating committee. If you are somebody who's very interested in being on that nominating committee, please see me. And lastly, bowling on October 15th. If you're interested in bowling, see Mike Jones. With that said, we're going to go to our classification talk, and let's hear it for Jerry Farmer.
touch. I'm not good with these things. Can I touch this? Is it okay? Doug? Can't touch this? Okay, there you go. So which way does it go? So this is the quick. It was going to be. It's going to be even quicker. This is my life story, never-ending story, in about 3 minutes or less. Wrong way. Okay, here we go. It's not working. So it's never going to end. So I started out many years ago as a child, as many people do, in the beginning. And the story about me by our great Lord, the Creator, was a long time. Okay, there we go. So yeah, on the farm with the farmers, I was actually a farmer, outstanding in my field early on. This is me right here. I was also a Chippendale dancer in kindergarten, which was very important. My first exposure into show business. Go on. Subtext of my life as various musicians. Go right ahead. Wow, I didn't do that. Move along. That's I don't know where what that sound effect came from. Next slide, please. For Buddy Holly years. Okay, next slide, please. The John Lennon years right here. Next slide, please. You got some of my hippie friends having dinner. Next slide, please. This is Pizza Face at Dirty Dave's. I moved to town here when I was 19 years old, working in the back kitchen at Dirty Dave's, and this is like one of the defining periods of my life. I was a little thinner then, the David Cassidy years. Move along, please. And this is the James Taylor years where I started doing stand-up comedy and first started singing Wild Thing with various bands who I opened for. More on that. Then moved ahead a little bit to my second marriage, or possibly the last part of my first marriage, or possibly both. The funny guy years where I created the Chineros and had a little bit of exposure there. Let's move along, please. Comedy was my life, but also I raised my family. This is my son on the upper left there, my stepson, my stepdaughter right there. As we're out hiking, I ran across the Olympics at that time in 1996, 30 miles. Then I moved on Roxy Radio in 2005, I believe it is, and started doing emceeing. Jeff Kingsbury and I worked together a number of times. I was honored to MC the Governor's Ball, both of the last couple of governor sequences, and of course be in the community doing things with beads. So move along. Then we also did some Austrian philanthropy in, what's that guy's name? Andrew Marcus, that's right. Oh, we always do that. We have so much fun. So move along, please. Well, I was working for 10 years before I ran for Port Commissioner. I wrote an essay every day on Roxy called America, You Gotta Love It, still available online. It ended up in book form at some point. And speaking of books, I've written 5 detective novels all set in the Olympia area because, you know, I don't have anything to do with my free time. So some people appear in those detective novels that are real people, like Graham Sackerson, also known as the anorexic Santa Claus. Some people, Jim Mack. Jim Mack is in the book as well. And then there are other people who I hate are in the book that are disguised in some way for legal purposes. Move along. Thank you. Now I'm in my Kenny Roger years. I successfully completed 3 marriages, and the woman in the middle there is the woman that I'm currently living in sin with, a lovely person, Jean Jacobson, lovely as well. But I'm still pushing my limits. I just climbed Mount Olympus this summer with my son. That's me right there, scaling the final 60 feet of rock face that I had to get to the top. Fortunately, I didn't fall. That's me on the top right there. And you know, I gotta say, it's a journey then and now, and if there's one thing I've learned in all the things that I've done, other than the Kenny Rogers know when to hold them, when to fold them, it's lastly my epitaph, which is, it seemed like a good idea at the time. Okay, thank you very much.
That was fun. Let's hear it for Jerry Farmer. And Adam, if you could start heading up, please. Okay, at this point, I'd like to say sayonara, goodbye, adios. I ran out of things to say in different languages to our online folks. So thank you for tuning in. I hope it was a good time for you. It was a great time for me, so I appreciate it. Let's hear it for our Sergeant at Arms, Madeline White.